In the last video, I quoted the first charter of Virginia when I said that part of America commonly called Virginia, but I left something interesting out. Who exactly is it that commonly calls that land Virginia? The natives had different names for the land, like Senecomaca. Finbar McCarthy explains, having formally described the claim, the charter did not need to refer to the area by name. Moreover, only the English called the area Virginia, and whether they commonly did so is completely debatable. Nevertheless, their naming the area Virginia after Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen of England, implied a perfect correspondence between England and Virginia, to which proponents of colonization aspired. Furthermore, commonly had a reassuring air that suggested to potential settlers that such correspondence had already existed. By reaffirming the English name, the English were deliberately attempting to establish a narrative of continuity between mainland England and colonial Virginia. I also brought up the first attack on the settlement of Jamestown, which occurred on May 27, 1607. The explanation I gave was that 200 Passamaquoddy Indians attacked Jamestown on the orders of the Powhatan. But why did the Powhatan order an attack on Jamestown, though? In my opinion, it's quite clear that early on, the Powhatan chiefdom could have easily destroyed the Jamestown settlement. The chiefdom had a population 144 times larger than that of the English settlements. The Mamaroneck's approach was not to destroy the English colony, but rather to integrate them into his own kingdom. By controlling the English, he could monopolize European goods in the region, expanding the power of him and all of the tribes under his influence. Seneca was a brilliant political leader. The initial attack was likely a test to see how well the settlement's defenses were, what sort of military tactics the English employed, and what weaponry they used. Seneca and the Powhatan chiefdom is not new to the expansion game. The English called him Powhatan, but his real name was Seneca. Seneca inherited about 5 tribes through his family. There's not many sources pertaining to Seneca and his exploits in pre-English Virginia. We do know that he expanded his small chiefdom from 5 tribes to around 30 tribes within a 30-year time period. He likely did this militarily through conquest. Once a tribe is integrated into the chiefdom, whether by force or through diplomacy, the tribe is granted a werewance. A werewance is essentially a commander. It's important to remember that each tribe still maintained a varied level of autonomy after being integrated. Some tribes had more freedom than others. Even though the Mamaroneck is the paramount chief, werewances can still choose to ignore or refuse commands or suggestions. Captain Newport plants a cross and then fucks off back to England. He obviously did more, but he's not important to the video right now. The council president, Edward Maria Wingfield, gets deposed from his position. The colonists accuse him of hoarding food, as others go hungry and bash him for the abysmal planning. Some of these accusations were coming from the mouth of John Smith. I left something out in the last video. During the ship's journey to America, John Smith was imprisoned out of fear of fermenting a rebellion. In fact, John Smith was meant to be hanged, but he was luckily spared at the last second. Undoubtedly, these months of being held captive while waiting to be executed affected John Smith. Then again, being held captive is definitely nothing new for John Smith, but that's a story for another video. While Smith was held as prisoner on the ship, the captain and a select few witnessed the opening of the box which revealed who's chosen for the council. John Smith was one of those men chosen for the council. As a compromise, he was released from captivity, but he wasn't allowed to be on the council. Now that Edward Maria Wingfield is no longer council president, Smith is now given his rightful position on the council. John Ratcliffe is chosen by the council to be the next president. John Smith is traveling up some rivers to explore and learn more about the surrounding area, and he has some friendly encounters with different tribes along his route. Later in the voyage, his crew gets killed by a swarm of arrows, and Smith gets captured by a werewance named Opechancanough. Smith gets paraded through Virginia, being guided by Opechancanough through multiple different towns and villages. John Smith is being shown all the people and territory controlled by the Powhatan chiefdom. Finally, John Smith is brought to a feast where Seneca, the Mamaroneck, has gathered his people. They perform a mock execution of John Smith. This was a knighting ritual performed for initiated werewances. As per the ritual, the Mamaroneck's daughter saves the newly made werewance from execution. This daughter of the Mamaroneck was also known to the English as Pocahontas. Her real name was Amanute. No, she was not romantically interested in John Smith. She was performing the duty of a Mamanatowic's daughter during a ritual. John Smith either misunderstood this ritual and thought the Mamanatowic's daughter genuinely saved some random English dude for no apparent reason, or he understood the ritual and purposely created a false narrative about it. Either way, as far as the Mamanatowic was concerned, John Smith was now a werewolf. The Mamanatowic expected John Smith to be the commander and leader of his tribe, the English, while also being subservient to the chiefdom.